Hello, and welcome to Legacy News. We're talking about Canada today, folks. Yes, Canada. Because while everyone else was busy arguing about, well, everything, Canada's been quietly undergoing a radical economic transformation. See, with 18 major projects in mining, energy, and infrastructure progressing at full speed, Canada is not just adapting, it's setting the pace. You might be thinking, isn't Canada America's hat? A delightful nation known for maple syrup, politeness, and a truly baffling obsession with hockey. And yes, while all that remains true, something interesting happened on the road to being America's friendly neighbor. The US strategy of using tariffs and trade pressure, something we thought would keep Canada in check, well, it backfired spectacularly. Rather than weakening its economy, it fueled a drive towards self-sufficiency that could reshape global markets. So the key question now, is the US permanently losing its economic grip on Canada? Are we witnessing the dawn of a new global powerhouse? Or is this just Canada being overly ambitious? Grab some poutine, settle in, and let's unpack the 7 critical shifts that are redefining Canada's economic future. Now, you can't talk about Canada's economic shift without mentioning the elephant, or rather the bald eagle in the room, the US. For decades, the US and Canada enjoyed a cozy trade relationship, with Canada supplying raw materials and the US turning them into, well, things. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement, or at least that's what we told ourselves. Then came the tariffs. Remember those? Trump slapped tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, claiming national security concerns. Slapping tariffs on your biggest trading partner, especially with a justification as flimsy as national security, seemed like a bold move, even for him. And what was the result? Did Canada crumble under the pressure? No. They did what any self-respecting nation would do. They got to work. They started looking for new markets, strengthening their domestic industries and investing heavily in infrastructure to become more self-sufficient. They essentially said, fine, you want to play hardball, we'll play, but we're bringing our own bat this time. This wasn't just about steel or aluminum, it was about sending a message. Canada was no longer content to be just a resource provider. They were ready to step onto the world stage as a major economic player. And you know what? It's working. The tariffs, in a truly ironic twist, became the catalyst for Canada's economic awakening. So while the US was busy engaging in trade wars with, well, everyone, Canada was quietly building a more resilient and independent economy. The US may have underestimated its northern neighbor, but the rest of the world is starting to take notice, because Canada's not just playing checkers anymore, they're playing chess and they're playing to win. All right, let's talk pipelines, those metal straws that are somehow always at the center of political controversy. Now, Canada, as you might know, has a lot of oil, like a lot. It's the world's 3rd largest proven oil reserves, to be precise, and historically much of that oil flowed south to the US via pipelines. But then something funny happened. Remember those tariffs we talked about? Well, they weren't the only source of tension in the US-Canada relationship. Pipeline projects, particularly those crossing the border, became increasingly mired in political and environmental battles. Keystone XL, anyone? It became clear that relying on US infrastructure for energy exports was, shall we say, not the most reliable strategy. So Canada did what any sensible country with a massive amount of oil and a slightly unreliable neighbor would do. They started looking for alternative routes, and by alternative I mean east and west, baby. They began investing heavily in pipeline projects that would transport their energy resources to their own coast, bypassing the US altogether. This shift towards east-west pipelines is a game changer. It allows Canada to diversify its energy markets, reaching new customers in Asia and Europe, all while reducing its dependence on the US. It's like breaking up with someone who keeps borrowing your stuff and never returning it. This isn't just about oil, though. Canada's also looking to become a major player in the liquefied natural gas, LNG, market. They're building LNG export terminals on their west coast, aiming to ship their abundant natural gas reserves to energy-hungry markets in Asia. So, the next time you hear someone talking about pipelines, remember, it's not just about environmental concerns or political squabbles. It's about economic independence, strategic diversification, and Canada's ambition to become a global energy powerhouse. Now let's talk about something near and dear to my heart, digging big holes in the ground. Or as they call it in the business world, mining. You see, Canada's always been a mining nation. It's in their blood. Like maple syrup and passive-aggressive politeness. But now they're taking it to a whole new level. See, the world is going electric. Electric cars, electric grids, electric toothbrushes, you name it. And all those batteries need minerals, lots of minerals. We're talking lithium, cobalt, nickel, graphite, the whole periodic table party. And guess what? Canada's got it all. They're like the geological Walmart of critical minerals. But here's the thing. For too long, the world has relied on one country for these minerals, China. And let's just say China hasn't always been the most, shall we say, reliable or ethically sound supplier. So there's a real desire, particularly in the West, to diversify supply chains and find new sources for these critical minerals. Enter Canada, stage left, with a hard hat and a glint in its eye. They're ramping up mining projects, investing in new technologies and positioning themselves as the ethical and reliable supplier of the minerals needed for the green energy revolution. So, while everyone else is scrambling to secure their mineral supplies, Canada's out there, quietly digging away, positioning themselves as the go-to supplier for the 21st century. Chapter 4. Ports and Logistics, the hidden game changer. Okay, let's talk about something deeply exciting. Logistics. Yeah, I know. But stick with me because this stuff is actually fascinating, especially when you realize it underpins the entire global economy. See, Canada's got a secret weapon in its economic arsenal, and it's not a moose-mounted laser cannon, as awesome as that would be, it's their ports. Now, you might not think of Canada as a maritime nation, but with the longest coastline in the world, they've got a lot of waterfront property. And they're not just using it for scenic Instagram photos of lighthouses. They're investing heavily in their ports, modernizing infrastructure, and expanding capacity. Why is this a big deal? Well, in a globalized world, efficient transportation is everything, and Canada's ports are strategically located to become key hubs for global trade. They're investing in things like shore power, which allows ships to plug into the electrical grid while docked, reducing emissions and noise pollution. This focus on ports and logistics might seem like a small detail, but it's a crucial part of Canada's economic transformation. All right, let's talk about something that should be near and dear to all of our hearts, the environment, or more specifically, how Canada plans to make a boatload of money while also, not destroying the planet, because when it comes to clean energy, Canada's not messing around. See, while some countries are still debating the reality of climate change, cough, cough, looking at you, certain parts of the United States, Canada's out there embracing renewable energy like a long-lost friend. And it's not just because they're a nation of environmentally conscious, tree-hugging, hockey enthusiasts. Okay, maybe it's partly that, but it's also just good business. They're investing heavily in wind, solar and hydroelectric power, diversifying their energy mix and positioning themselves as a leader in the global transition to a low-carbon economy. Think about it. As the world transitions to cleaner energy sources, countries that are still clinging to coal and oil are going to get left behind. But Canada's going to be sitting pretty, supplying the world with clean, renewable energy. Now let's talk about something truly riveting, an infrastructure. Yeah, I know it's not exactly the sexiest topic, but trust me, this is important, because just like a good pair of long johns is essential for surviving a Canadian winter, a strong infrastructure is crucial for a healthy economy. And Canada's been hitting the infrastructure gym pretty hard lately. They're pouring money into transportation networks, expanding ports and airports, and building new highways and bridges. And it's not just about physical infrastructure either. They're also investing heavily in their digital infrastructure, expanding broadband internet access to rural communities, and building out their 5G networks. All right, let's talk trade, that thing that makes the world go round, or at least the global economy go round. Now, Canada's always been a trading nation. I mean, when you share a border with the largest economy in the world, it's kind of hard not to be. But for a long time, their trade strategy could be summed up as sell stuff to the United States, maybe buy some stuff back, eh? But those days are over, my friends. Canada's gone global, baby. They're diversifying their trade relationships, forging new partnerships, and expanding their reach into new markets. They negotiated trade agreements with the European Union, CETA, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP, and a whole host of other countries. These agreements are opening up new markets for Canadian goods and services, reducing trade barriers and strengthening their economic ties with countries around the world. This shift towards a more global trade strategy is a game changer for Canada. So, there you have it, folks. Canada's not just the land of moose, maple syrup, and overly polite lumberjacks anymore. They're undergoing a remarkable economic transformation, driven by bold strategies and a healthy dose of pragmatism. By accelerating infrastructure projects, expanding renewable energy, modernizing mining operations, and diversifying trade, Canada is asserting itself as a global powerhouse, no longer just a supplier to the United States. But the question remains, will it work? Will this ambitious vision of a more independent, globally connected Canada succeed? The path ahead is filled with challenges, from shifting trade dynamics to political resistance, and the enormous task of executing these initiatives effectively. If Canada pulls it off, it could significantly reduce its dependence on the United States economy and emerge as a major force on the global stage. What do you think? Is Canada's new direction a game-changing shift, or is it an overreach? If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.